I'm looking at a $6 billion industry of only, and I'm not seeing it's the young hot women that are being manipulated. I see them manipulating men. You probably brought me on this debate because my girlfriend is 24 years younger than me.
I actually didn't know Michael. I had no idea until you texted me that.
Okay. We have a lot of in common. We're both into animal rescue. We're both into SEC football. We're both into the gym heavily. And we have a lot of stuff in common. So there are studies that show with like May-December marriages where men are more likely, and this is also Dr. David Buss talks about this in his evolutionary psychology books, where he talks about men are more likely to be more of a mate guarding person when there's a huge disparity between age. But they'll also find there's another question you should ask, Alex, which is I think a secondary question, is it natural for older men to want to date younger women and vice versa? Because in every society, Dr. David Buss's 37 culture study he did in 1989, he showed that in all cultures, as men climbed the socioeconomic ladder, the difference between their age and their wife's age increased in all cultures. That is Mexico, Norway, the Yanomamo tribes of South America, Russia, and the United States. In all cultures, they found that to be the case. We're going to talk about, is it healthy or is it moral? It seems to be when women want to date older men, and numerous studies show that they do. Now, how much older? 3 years is generally the number that we see. Sometimes maybe 10, maybe 20. But when women want to date older men, that is judged by society to be a healthy preference. When men want to date younger women, that is judged by society to be creepy. And I think that is a moral and a huge double standard. So I think that's the issue. If you have two people, I'll tell you, like my girlfriend now, if we were the same age, she would not have probably been interested in me. Now it's one of these situations where I wasn't ready to settle down and to be in a relationship and to consider things like marriage and kids until the age I was now. And that's where she is in her life. From a reproductive standpoint, it's actually a lot easier for her if she wanted to have kids now or like say in the next 5 years, and for me to do it at the same time. We're at the same place as far as our, I don't know what the word I'm looking, relationship journey. I think we're at the same place in our lives. For me, it just came a little later than other people. But the other thing is, most people don't think I'm 46 years old. Most people, when they meet me, think I'm like 33. And I've chosen to keep myself in really good shape. And so that is another reason why we have a lot in common. So I think it is contextual. But like Andrew said, I don't see a moral reason, specifically ad hoc for any 50-year-old man to date any 25-year-old woman. I don't think that there's a specific moral reason to deny that.
Same follow-up question. You mentioned that what the reality is, but I guess I will ask you the odd. Do you think it's better from a pragmatic perspective, worse, or the same as a relationship where people are the same age?
I think you can have two people of the same age and they be in an unhealthy relationship. And I think you can have an older man who's been through a lot of trials and tribulations. And I think one of the reasons why my relationship works with Kylie is because I've had situations where communication has broken down with a woman, or we've gotten into irrational fights and arguments. And I explained to her, these are my experiences. And in order for us to make it 75 years like my grandparents did, these are the things that we're going to have to do as far as communication is concerned. And she can choose to listen or not listen. And that's the issue that happens, because I do have a lot more experience. But like Tom said, am I using my experience as leverage to manipulate her? A manipulative person would manipulate you if they were 25 and 21 or if they were 45 and 21. It's a manipulative person is manipulative. I don't think age is necessarily the issue. As much as money could be the issue, I think it's just as likely. What I'm saying is I meet people throughout my life who are at different psychological ages and different levels of maturity, and it doesn't have that much to do with their actual chronological age. So I don't think you can just say it's better or worse. I think two mature individuals having a relationship together, that's healthy, and two not mature individuals having a relationship together is toxic. It doesn't matter what age they are.
It seems like you're agnostic on it, basically. It's not better or worse. It just depends on the...
Well, I think most relationships right now are failing, period. So like it's not, I don't know necessarily it's a function of age.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Okay, Lab, you are up.
I think it's case by case. I think generally my opinion is probably that if you are an older man trying to date a younger woman, you're creepy. And I think the same thing with like an older woman trying to date a younger man. Like, I just think you're creepy. I think that the power differential, I mean, that's why I say case by case, right? Like if you're someone like a celebrity, like Billie Eilish dated a Jesse Rutherford, who's only like, I think 14 years older than her, but you know, they're at about the same place in their career and make about the same amount of money and can't really, you know, so that makes a little bit more sense to me. That's like less creepy and weird. I mean, I even feel my fiance is only 5 years older than me and I can feel it. Like it's felt in the relationship, just like even with like funny videos or shows that we used to watch. And, you know, we had the conversation earlier in our relationship, like he'd only ever dated women his same age or women older than him, and he didn't ever think that he'd date someone. We met when I was 21. He didn't ever think that he'd date someone as young as me, but because I already had an established career, made my own money, I'd been living on my own for 6 years. It was just like a different dynamic. Yeah, so I think that overall, I think the biggest problem is not just the power in the power dynamic in the age, like the exact age, but just how much life you've been able to live and how much influence you can have, like monetarily, like financial influence, or just emotional manipulation. Like young women and young men are very naive, and I don't see that as a positive thing. Maybe, people like Andrew probably think it's a positive thing to be able to lead your very naive woman who just follows you around, but I don't necessarily think that that's a positive thing. So
okay.
Well, Leah, I'm curious.
Wait, Michael, real quick before and then it'll be open panel. You can go first. So just to quickly sum it up for the chat. So it seems like, and you guys stop me if I'm wrong about your characterization, it seems like Andrew's saying from a pragmatic perspective, it's probably better. Michael and Tom are like, case by case, it's neutral, and Lav is saying, no, it's worse. So am I summing everyone's positions correctly?
Well, I think it's case by case, but I think generally.
But you also think it's creepy.
I think there should be a social stigma against it.
Okay. So that would be your the negative position. Okay, go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, Lav. So my question is, from my experience when I deal with younger women, I don't find that it's them being manipulated more than I see them manipulating men. So that's why I kind of have an issue with this. Like, young, hot women are the ones being manipulated. I'm looking at a $6 billion industry of OnlyFans, and I'm not seeing it's the young, hot women that are being manipulated. I see them manipulating men.
This is going to turn into a much bigger issue if you get me started on the OnlyFans thing, because when I see women sell themselves out and hoard themselves out to men, I think that they're victims. So I think that is disgusting. I think it's dysgenic. And I think that OnlyFans preys on young women who have terrible backgrounds. And yeah, sure, they're making money, but at the cost of what?
Let's completely throw OnlyFans out of it. For instance, dating apps. Women will do 6,000 left swipes before they swipe right once. They find 80% of men on dating apps to be unattractive. And there's several studies that show women are on there not even to date, just to get attention from men. My point is, going back to what I was saying before, from my experience, when I'm seeing 26% of men.
Do you think that we should teach women that getting attention from men is the end all be all, or do you think that that's something
do you think that we should teach society that all of their morality is going to come from what you find creepy? From what you find creepy?
Well, no,
I find it creepy. I find it creepy. Thank God. Well, Lav finds it creepy. The debate's over, so we'll go. Why don't you make an actual argument for it? Make an argument against it.
I did.
I'd like to hear one. What is it? What's the actual argument?
If you have too much power, so if you've accumulated like a ton of wealth in your lifetime, then you could financially manipulate your young wife or girlfriend who barely makes any money. And now she's in a relationship where she can't leave because you make so much money, and she thinks that her life is made, and she puts up with so much more.
That poor
potentially
woman.
Abuse.
That poor woman.
Abuse.
That poor. Wait.
That
poor. Wait. Let me make sure I got this right. Let me make sure I got this right. The poor woman who was living behind a dumpster, who was elevated by the older man, and now feels like she can't leave because she has it. Let me finish. Because now she has it made in the shade. She just feels like, I can't leave anymore because my life is just too good from the crack shack that this guy elevated me out of.
If the only thing that matters is money, then sure, that absolutely stands. But if you want a partner who emotionally nourishes you, who sees you as an equal, and who's going to raise healthy and successful kids with you, that's not what you want. You don't want to give children to a man who's
men do not want equals. If we wanted masculine, strong, tough, hey, no. Listen. If men wanted masculine, strong, tough women, they'd all be gay. Lav.
I'm not talking about equal. And
they don't want equals, Lav.
We've talked about this before.
They want submissive women, Lav.
Equal dominion over the earth, not exactly equal in stature and ability. It's equal. We complete each other. We're yin and yang.
Would you say you and your fiance are equals?
Yeah, I think that we are equals. Now, I mostly just like to be like a housewife because I don't want to work and I don't really have to work. But still, I make sure that the bills are paid, obviously with the money that, my fiance brings in, but I'm basically I run the house. I run the domestics. I make sure that everything is clean.
Why is that not creepy?
What do you mean?
Well, I think that's creepy. Tell me why I'm wrong. It just makes me feel like it's ucky.
For what about?
Why is that wrong? Just all of it. Just everything about it makes me.
I guess you're
icky.
entitled to your own opinion, Andrew.
Is that the extent of your argument too? That you just feel like it's icky? It's icky.
If you do not have the IQ to understand something that I've already explained to you, I'm not going to sit here.
You didn't actually explain a moral argument. You said there was a power dynamic issue.
I'm not making a moral argument. I'm making.
Then why did we care? If it's not an ought claim to morals, why should we care?
You don't have to.
Why should anybody take your ought seriously then?
You don't have to. This is a
nobody
web show, Andrew.
So nobody should take your ought claim seriously.
Why should we take yours seriously?
Well, because if I make a claim,
you're waffling right now.
If I make a claim and absolutely nobody can refute it with any type of moral imperative for why you ought not do that, then I think you should just accept the claim.
I already gave you my example, which is that if you can financially or emotionally manipulate your much younger partner based off of what you have amassed in your lifetime.
Why is that wrong? Why is that wrong?
I think abuse is typically wrong.
That's not abuse.
Okay.
Why is that abuse?
Well, I guess debate
what
over.
You consider some weird form of what is the manipulation? What does that look like in this? And what is the manipulation? Like he's older and wiser, so he says you can have X amount of allowance per week.
Let me put this into perspective. I do think the situation changes once you're married. So I think once you have a legal obligation to your partner and that you guys are under, law, I think that's why prenups are good.
Now it's not creepy anymore because a state contract is involved. Now that there's a state contract, the creepiness is out the window, Lav.
Yeah, I think that once you protect young women from powerful men, that's less creepy.
How are they protected?
By something like alimony.
Oh, okay. So as long as
your husband starts to
get
beat
paid,
you,
as long as they get paid.
If your husband starts to beat you and you haven't worked for 10 years because your man picked you up when you were 17, 18, and you know nothing else, and then suddenly you have nothing, you can't leave, you can't get an apartment because your husband or your boyfriend has all the finances.
You're beholden to your own choices. That's terrible, Lav.
So you think that women who are beat should stay?
I don't think that. I think that is you're loading it now. Now you're changing the goalpost and saying now they're getting beaten. We're talking specifically. No, you said specifically this. What if she's dependent on his income? So what? And then she no longer wants to be. She no longer wants to be. Okay, beaten is grounds for leaving anybody anywhere at any time.
Yes, but you're less likely to leave if you are financially dependent on that man.
Okay, do you think that what's going on is that women are leaving men because they're getting beaten? That's the core reason for why they're leaving men? Like, what are you talking about?
I'm not saying that this is I'm not saying this is applicable to every single person. I'm saying that
most? Is it even applicable to most
Probably
people?
Not.
No,
and I don't think
not.
And I don't think every scenario is creepy. But I think also, first thing that I'm like, when a man is like, oh, I want like a young woman, I think that he wants someone that he can control. And that's
sure. It's not because she's young and hot and he wants to have lots of sex with. That's not it. It's because he wants to control her. Not because men are attracted to. Hang on, Lav. Hang on.
With a 26-year-old.
Would you agree or disagree? Agree or disagree? Older men like to have sex with young, hot women. Agree or disagree?
Agree. And you can also be a 25 or 26-year-old who's
hang on. So
super hot.
Lav, what possible alternative incentive could a man possibly have other than control and manipulation to want to have sex with a young, hot woman all the time? Could there be any other incentive besides control and manipulation you could think of there?
You're getting a little hairy though. The younger you get, what's stopping people from marrying a 16-year-old? Well,
there's standards. There's moral standards for that.
Why moral standard from 16 to 18? Does the brain change significantly in those 2 years?
No. It's because there actually has to be some arbitrary, and there it is. Every side will agree that there's an arbitrary. Stop. There's an arbitrary.
So my arbitrary line is 25.
You haven't even let me start yet. No, it's not 25. You're not advocating. You're not advocating that only 25-year-olds get married. And if you are, it's only because you're banking on some type of brain. It's because you're only banking on some kind of like absurd brain development thing where you say their brain doesn't fully develop until they're 25. But here's the thing. Some of their brains do develop before they're 25. That's one. Two, when you look at the brain itself, they don't get that much more intelligent between the ages of 20 and 25. And let's not forget this.
Between 18 and 25.
Since there is this kind of arbitrary starting point, and it's once we establish that it's 18, it's not arbitrary anymore. There's a system in place. Now we're not talking about an arbitrary system.
So why is it 18 then?
It's 18 because we have to have a starting point.
Okay, but why can't we just say it's 14?
Some states, God help us, have said that.
Okay, well, why is that wrong? God help us. Why is that wrong?
There's universal.
By your logic, why is that wrong?
They arbitrarily. I just told you there's universal moral agreement on this. So unless you're going to make the moral case that it should be lowered, because I'm not. Unless you're going to make the moral case that it should be lowered. Stop. I'm saying it's moral that we have a starting point where the human female is at least to the point of full development, and that is, I think, arguably. No, I don't think you can be.
You absolutely can.
But in any case, if we start,
it could be as young as 13.
If we start there,
can we come on your podcast?
Hang on. Lav, are we going to make Are you going to make the moral argument that we should lower the age of consent?
No, I think.
Okay, well then their whole point's moot.
No,
let's also let
to me it's not arbitrary at 25. We have let's also let proof that the brain is done developing at 25.
Guys. Let's also let some of the other people get a word in, because they've been silent for like literally 10 minutes, and then you can obviously continue this line of questioning after that. So yeah, Tom, Michael, do you want to add anything to this?
Michael,
yeah, Leo, my question.
Actually, go ahead. No. Go ahead.
Leah, my question was, so the financial manipulation thing. So I have some friends of mine. Obviously, this is not the majority, but I have some friends of mine that make a lot of money here in Las Vegas. They're females, and they specifically date men who make a lot less money than them, specifically so that they get like male strippers or VIP hosts, because they can control them.
Yeah.
But there's not a big age difference. And my whole thing is like, let's just say you have a woman, she's divorced, she's 35 years old, she has 2 kids, and she's in a dire financial strait, and she's married to a wealthy man. I just don't think age is the problem. If you have a disparity of wealth, that's a disparity of wealth.
I don't think it is usually either. I'm just saying that you are more likely to in that age gap. So that's why I'm saying it's case by case. Like, I think it's up for scrutiny always.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. And then my other issue was,
wait, what does that mean? Up for scrutiny?
Like, we should scrutinize. We should look closer at
those
relationships.
Who's we should?
Like, we as a people.
I mean, it's just everybody,
society,
just like the guy down the road. The guy down the road,
like